Okay, so we're the Newsmast Foundation, and we built channel.org to help build online social communities. We're a UK registered charity. Um, our names are Saskia, Freddie, and Michael. There are a few other people involved, but we're the community team, so we're kind of the face of the foundation. We set up the foundation after Elon Musk took over X, because we felt that the knowledge sharing communities on X were in jeopardy, with big tech and capitalist desires taking over. So, as you all probably know, social media is being held hostage. Platform owners just want to increase profit, and that leads to what we call antisocial behaviors. So there's more adverts, there's more spam, and hateful speech is weighted heavier than general friendly talk, which we don't like to see. That's why a lot of organizations are leaving. They don't want to be on X. Some have even left Facebook and Meta platforms as well. Um, but we want to offer people who are ready to leave or have left a space to build their communities on what we call the open social web. Um, Channel.org is on the open social web, and it is non-profit. So we're never going to be like Elon Musk and throw loads of adverts down your throat to fund the US government. Instead, what we want to do is help you build your community on your terms. Michael, do you want me to hand over to you?
Yeah, sure. To run through what we've got. So this is what we're showing you is the tip of an iceberg, and it's the result of 2.5 years' work. So there's what we call channel.org is a lot of technology and stuff behind the scenes to make it work. So what we've done is we've kind of taken all we've learned about community building on the open social web, alternative social media. We put it together. We put it together in a very easy form whereby any organization can make the most of it. We've also realized that just having tech is not good enough. So just going around to see, saying to you, okay, you're a community, what you need is this technology of a server. You much more than that. So the first thing we've done is worked out an education support program. So I'll talk about that first, then about your space and about how you can build a community. Those are the three things we've got. So we have a look at step one. So first of all, that's getting you onboarding you to the what we call the open social web. So this is getting you out of walled gardens and into new spaces. Some examples would be Blue Sky, which now has around 33 million. Places like Flipboard, Ghost, a blogging service, WordPress, which powers lots of websites. These are all ways of joining on to the open social web. And we can help you navigate that, understand the opportunities, understand more what you can do, and start to think about how XR could best get a home there, and then use that as a base to build your community. So we could help guide you through it. And so what we're working on now, what Freddie is developing, is an education program over the course of 9 months or so, whereby we could guide you through it with a mix of webinars and online sessions and a newsletter to take you through this. We'd want to share all the things we've learned over the last 2.5 years in doing this, and so how you can really get the most out of alternative social media through these different things here. And we will also, alongside that, give full support. So the three of us are here to help you, guide you through it, how you set it all up. We would set a lot of the tech up for you, so you wouldn't have to bother with it. You would just see the results, but we'd help you work out what content works, how to post, things like that. So we'll hold your hand all the way along the way as part of this learning process. That's the first thing. So what are we all about? We're about creating a home. So at the moment, if you know social media at all, you'll think of it mainly as accounts. Actually, because you go back, Saskia, while I talk about this for a sec, you'll think of it as accounts. So at the moment, you would have an account on X or an account on Facebook. So basically, all you are there is you're joining somebody else's service. So it's kind of quite weird, really. It's like the old way back when the web first started, it was owned by something called AOL. You didn't have a website, you went on to this thing called AOL. It's like that in social media. We've got stuck in that model. So it's as if you didn't, like, if you imagine not having your own website now, very few people could think of that. But in social media terms, you don't have your own home. You have you rent from somebody else. How do you rent it? You rent it because they send you adverts or they charge you a subscription or whatever. So you're just stuck on their space. And increasingly, you're obviously then fighting all the toxic people they want to bring on in the case of X or Facebook. So it's not ideal. We're not saying you don't have to, and what we would say is keep engaging there. Some people have walked away entirely. It's entirely up to you. You may well feel you have to take the battle there because that's where the audience is. What we would say is that isn't a safe space for everybody. It's not a great place to be. You should start thinking in the longer term about how to build up a different alternative home on social media where people can come and feel safe and share much more. So one is perhaps about battling if you want to do battle. The other one we're talking about is building an alternative home in social media in a positive way. And that's what we're about. So if you have a look at what we're doing, we have the technology behind it. If you want to go ahead, Saskia, and then we also have what we're calling your social postcode, so your name, so .channel.org. So you get a subdomain, you get an account that's called that, so xr.channel.org. Alternatively, if you want to, you can change that to your own social domain. Fundamentally, so what we're saying here is this is a really easy way for us to give you what we call a channel. That's a means of reaching everybody, a means of bringing people together around a community. That's your space on the open social web where you can bring things together. So that's the first thing, your home. And then from there, you can own and control how your content is distributed online. So you can take control of it. So you can, first of all, the first step, which we would help you through, is simply having that as a place you can broadcast from. And then you're not just broadcasting onto one place, as you would be on, say, X, through the open social web. Your content can go onto Blue Sky, it can go across what's called the Fediverse, it can go across a whole, it can go onto RSS. So from there, it can go to a whole bunch of places. And you can also have a repository where you hold it together. So it's your own place, your home. So it's the starting thing would be to distribute your own content, get your message out. The second thing is you can do there is you can bring together content from different people in the organization. So if people have accounts, for instance, on Blue Sky or on Mastodon, or in different places, you can pull that together and you can start to own content which has either around XR, or if you have a topic like deep waters, you could, for instance, have a channel for that, and then all conversations around that could come together there. So go on, Saskia. So that's why I've covered building a home and bringing content together. The next thing is about building community. That's kind of which we could also work you through. You can do this in a couple of ways. First of all, the content sharing, you can do it within basically a group. So you can, it's not just a platform, you can have an invite only or a public space where people can come together. So within the channel here that you have, you can create basically a group. So it's kind of think of it as like X meets Facebook, if you like. So you can have a social media posting by a particular group, which is approved by you. So you wouldn't have anybody coming into the XR account. You wouldn't have anybody posting to it, but you could have a network of yourselves posting to it, and different parts of XR could post together. So first of all, you would have a group. The second thing, which would be really a next step on from that, would be thinking about really having your own version of X, which we can do with you, which is for you to have your own server, what we call a hub, and where you would build your own neighborhood. This could well be, this is a step on. So we're saying first off, start by broadcasting, bringing content together, forming into a group. The next step will be actually to have accounts. So you could have basically your Ned at XR.org, as a social media account. So your social media account will then be held in a space owned and controlled by XR itself. So this might be too much of a step to start with, but we could guide you through the routes on that. And for instance, we have just taken over the admin of a very solid server community across the world called indieweb.social. That's a bunch of people who are supporting an independent alternative web, about 1,200 people on there. So it's their home, it's an alternative place, and that is where they log on to engage with social media. That's where they come to. So that's their place. So ultimately, everyone in XR or part of joining could come to an XR place. So those are the three steps really. Apart from the education support, one is to have a home where you can broadcast out stuff about. XR, and it's similar to what you're currently broadcasting, say, to X. The second one is to bring content together from different people who are already on the alternative social web. And the third one is to form a real neighborhood community for yourselves. That's where, so, and we can provide both the tech and the support and the know-how for you to do all of that with minimal effort from yourselves. So what's next? We'd love to talk to you about this. We did just want to flag one thing. Should we go into that, Saskia? Which is money. So we're a not-for-profit. We're not trying to make money out of you. At the starter, we were going to say to you, come on board with a free pilot. But if over the long run you wanted to have the last thing I was talking about, for instance, where everybody has an account on an XR server or hub, you know, eventually the tech is going to cost money. We need to share some of that cost with you. Okay, so I just want to flag that to you. What we're saying to start, and we don't want to, we want to be clear about that. And if you were to have many thousands, we just have to cover our costs of providing that technology. Technology doesn't come entirely for free. And then, but on the whole, we are, however, wanting to work with you. And any early adopters can become a part of a pilot program for free. We're literally launching this now, while we're talking to you. We're launching this in the next couple of weeks. You're very early on, and we'd love to work with you, tailor it to your needs. Then it's a learning process. We could work with you, find out what's best. And we have a number of ways we could slice it. As you've probably seen from what we've presented here, it could be around different parts of XR. It could be around some of the things you're organizing. It could be around training. Some of the things you've mentioned already would definitely be different avenues to it. We'd need to work it all out. And we'd need to work together with you to find, obviously, what would have the best take up. There's no point in doing this if people aren't going to use it. So we can't just sit there. So we need to work out something that does have the best take up. However, I would say that the simple act of forming xr.channel.org would get you global support from around the world. There's a whole bunch of people, because we would put that straight out onto Blue Sky as well as across the Fediverse. So you've got a lot of people who would start to follow that content from the get-go. So you would get an instant result from it even before you start to do some of the next steps I was talking about. So we do think it's a win-win, and we'd love to work with you. We're excited by it. We've all got different experiences of activism. Freddie's talked about here. We would really like to have it work with XR. I think that's well, there you go. Thank you. There you are. So that's Newsmast for you. Thank you very much for listening, and we'd love to have a talk.
Thanks very much indeed, Saskia and Michael and Freddie. So I won't give my reaction immediately because I'm the facilitator. So just in terms of going around the room, would anybody like to respond? Linda?
Yeah, just I hadn't realised how much in other people's pockets I am. I'm on a lot of social media platforms, and I hadn't realised it's evolved. It's sort of crept, and I do try not to fund world-ending megalomaniacs, but it's very difficult, isn't it, not to? And I'm very aware of the hostility to everything and how the algorithms stir that. I do spend some time on Facebook saying you're only here because you're angry, or don't answer this because this person's the algorithms have put that person at the top because it's inflammatory or whatever. But it's time we did something different because it's damaging our society. So I'm really quite interested. I can't make the jump yet to see how different it could be because I'm so completely overwhelmed by where we are. But it's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Peter?
I was going to say, first, congratulations on getting the domain channel.org. That can't have been easy, or you're very lucky. How do you see moderation operating within this setup? Because it will become important eventually. It might start off being nice people, it won't continue to be nice people. And then beyond that, it certainly sounds like a really great project, and I hope it does go well. And I hope, well, one question might be, I kind of, if XR nationally set or UK signed up, how would that work with subgroups of XR? So the Deepwater one, or even my local group where I live, could make use of it. Would we all have to sign up, or would it be some sort of subdomains or some such? That's it.
Saskia, why don't you do the moderation bit and I'll answer that second bit.
Sure. Okay, so for channel.org, what we offer straight away is a load of filters. So these are filters of hateful comments, sexist. We filter out all porn, adult content straight away. So that should never really reach your server. After that, we then have the way we currently work is with community moderators. So people can report content and then it can be taken down. Because of the way that the open social web works is you are connecting to other platforms and other networks. So sometimes content does come in. You can cut off that connection if you don't want to be connected to them, or you can just simply take down the content from your end of the server. We've seen quite a lot of success with the community moderation past the filters. But it is, like on any social platform, always going to be a challenge. But we are very ready to help with that, and it will be covered as part of the channel.org education offering. We'll help you with that. Michael, do you want to take over?
So on the second point, Peter, about yeah, we could work with you to make sure that everybody had a space, depending on the numbers of people involved. We could work out an overall XR presence, and then so for instance, that's what we would call in channel.org terms a community. So we could have an overall community. But within that, there's space for smaller channels to operate quite easily. So a local group could easily have their own channel, but that content could all be pulled together. So I think you could have different levels from one, say, let's stay focused on UK for now. One XR UK, second local groups, third topic groups like Deepwater we've mentioned, and then lastly individual members. If you wanted eventually to have accounts, you would then have accounts. So the way the technology works is I think we could accommodate all of those, but it would be a trial. I would say we'd probably want to pick the highest impact ones we could come. It was similar to you as campaigners. We want to make the difference and make sure this works, and get people on board to it. That's the key thing, I think. So we could pick the areas where we had the critical mass. But even that said, as Linda said, the world is a toxic place, and just by having an account on the open social web, we've all found we've all come to this new. You are in a better place to start with, and there's some, and it isn't all campaigning or stuff. So I'm a big fan of some feeds. There's one which is called Silent Sunday, where people post landscape images on a Sunday. The other one is about Mosterdom, so mossy pictures of moss and stuff. This is so it isn't all like campaign and community. There's some all sorts of different sides to it, and you can find your space, whatever suits you. They haven't do what suits me. Saskia and Freddie think I'm a little odd with these two. They're my two particular bits of fandom. Anyway else.
Thank you. Over to Freddie.
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to add something on the end of what Michael said around the hosting of people's accounts. So XR is obviously a very large organization. One of the really exciting opportunities of the open social web is that it lets people participate from wherever they're most comfortable. So I'm assuming like a lot of your members will have Blue Sky accounts, for example. They would be able to participate with the xrchannel.org from their own Blue Sky accounts without having to set up an additional account. Some people might choose, might decide, or actually I would quite like to set up an account on the XR channel.org server, and they would be able to do that. And some other people might want to interact with it from other platforms. So it's very scalable. It really allows like a lot of different entry points. We have an app, for example, that kind of gives I guess a best-in-class service for engaging with content on channel.org. But but there are other ways to participate and join in from around the open social web, which is one of the things that really marks it out and makes it like quite a big step on from where we are right now with very centralized and controlling models like Facebook and X.
Thanks, Freddie. Linda?
Yeah, my brain's starting to connect with this now. So, I mean, it would be nice to have a healing space. In exile, we often feel very alone and very beleaguered, criticised, under threat. And to have a safe space where we could go to be amongst our people would feel good. So that's one thing I could see would be quite useful. I mean, one of the things that I teach when I'm doing my prepare for action is how to keep safe, how to keep secure. And we talk about air gapping and never identifying any kind of organizer because they can go down for conspiracy and be down for quite a while, things like that. So what kind of security is there built into your system so that we're safe in it?
We'd need to think about that. We would need to think about that and how we would need to be careful there because these are public areas, you know, and stuff it's social media and it's the web. So if you're posting things there, it is public. We're not offering, so this is not the same as, say, for instance, I'm familiar with Signal, a Signal chat room. You know, if you have a Signal chat, that's encrypted. That's different. Yeah, I know, not in America, not if you invite a journalist, but in theory, Signal is very popular amongst our cohort. It was until the Trump government took it over. But anyway, but if you use something like Signal, so we can't say it's not like that. We're not offering an enclosed encrypted space, which is, do you know what I mean? This isn't open public forum. So I guess what this is more for is bringing together in public forums to combine. So we could have a local space, as you say, like for healing, but I think we have to be careful. I'm not sure we can promise you such safety. Although when we very first set up, I mean, you can open an account. No, you can't on this one. You need an email account. So really, you know, I think it would be unwise to say that. Freddie, do you agree with that? I can't think we can offer pure.
Yeah, I think that yeah, just to be clear, I think that this is not an encrypted platform. This isn't something that we would recommend kind of conversations that require OPSEC or anything like that. We would say, however, you know, to treat it like a Facebook group and think of it more in that vein. So it would be a place for communal gathering, sharing of news or information. I think the well-being idea is a very strong one. I think we could definitely do something around that. There's a lot of kind of relevant content to that in the wider network that we could probably make use of for those kinds of purposes. Connecting with other kinds of conversations around climate change and environmental issues is like, in general, a very popular area on the open social web. There's a lot of scientists and activists already there. So yeah, but yes, as Michael says, to be clear, we are dealing with public content, and we would be quite mortified, I think, if somebody ended up endangering themselves because of the way that they use our tech.
Thanks.
Yeah. I was just going to come back and say that nowhere is secure, but some places are more secure than others. And one of the things that we do is air gap, so that it's harder for people to put the jigsaw together. So we would just have to be very clear to rebels, you know, where this sits in that air gap thing.
Yeah.
And to give them health warnings about not using it for this, so that we understand exactly what where it fits into that jigsaw of tools that we use to keep ourselves safe. But it's good, we need to understand it, that's all.
Thanks, Linda. Daisy, I just wondered if you've got any comments at this point.
Yeah, I had a few questions actually. Everything sounds really interesting, and I think like XR might be interested in using this. My first question's a bit annoying and might sound a bit corporate, but I was just wondering about like the algorithm. So like currently on Instagram, it will prioritize stuff that's been getting more likes, comments, and shares. How would that work? And also, it's another question, but it's just about your growth. So are you growing quickly? If we were to say make an account and do some work with you, how fast do you think that we might grow?
Saskia answer.
Saskia?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So the algorithms work very differently to traditional social media. There's no like magic formula that's behind the scenes weighting certain posts higher than others. It's all purely based on community interaction. So the posts that do well are the ones that are liked by the people in the community and reshared by them. Your posts won't get told off. If they've got links in, they're not going to be get down weighted or anything like that. It is literally just what the community wants to see does well. So if you're posting climate change activism, that will most likely do well on the open social web, because as we've said, there's a lot of people on there who are already invested and working in those areas. Our growth, honestly, it started quite slowly. So we have an account. We don't have the whole channel, but we have an account on our own server. And at first, it took a while to get going. But once people started to realize who we were and what we were doing, it grew very fast. For yourselves, because you've already got a name, people know who you are. We can imagine it will grow very fast. Obviously, we went into this completely new charity in a completely new social space. But I imagine you guys would go a lot faster.
Thank you, Saskia. Freddie?
Yeah, sorry, I'm actually just curious. I guess I have a question for Daisy. So in terms of like the social like we've spoken about being able to reach multiple other networks and platforms from a channel.org base camp, so to speak. It would be interesting to know whether you guys already have things like a Blue Sky account, a Mastodon account, a Pixel account, Threads. Yeah, Daisy, would you be able to speak to that and which kind of platforms you're on right now?
Yeah, so we use Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Blue Sky, and we left Twitter a while ago. We also use LinkedIn, but we use it really sparingly. And that's actually something we kind of potentially want to use a bit more because it's a very different audience. And we do stuff like targeting CEOs and targeting the mega rich as well. So yeah, that's currently what we're using. But this does sound really interesting, actually. And I think like the different steps, like the thought of a community and a safe space as well, because I think people come on social media sometimes to relax and they get stuff that they don't want to see. So yeah, basically. Also, yeah, Freddie.
Sorry, I'm happy to. I thought you'd finished. Oh, okay, great. Okay, so yeah, so on some of like the more detailed technical points, what this kind of system would enable you to do is to reach several platforms at the same time. I don't know if you already use a tool like Buffer or something like that, but if you use like cross-posting tools, then we can integrate it into some of those, depending on exactly which one you use. I'm not sure we can help with LinkedIn specifically, but definitely on Blue Sky and Mastodon and introducing your presence on Mastodon, we can definitely help with. Saskia is, I'm not going to lie, and she might not like me saying this, but she is basically an industry leader in this area. She is one of the very few full-time social media managers that specializes in decentralized networks. So when she says that like the growth is being quite slow, but that we've started to take off, that's primarily down to her management and custodianship of our brand account. And through sort of trial and error, if I can put it that way, or some clever trial and error, but nevertheless, there's been like quite a lot of trial and error. We've tried to figure out like what makes a good post and how to get things going, and we'll be more than happy to share that with your teams. Yeah.
Thank you, Freddie. Daisy, did you have a direct at this point?
Yeah, I had a direct. I guess I wanted to ask, so like on Blue Sky, for example, there's a limit of characters and you can only upload 4 pictures, whereas on Instagram it's longer. And also like our audiences are slightly different across different platforms. Like Facebook's older, TikTok's younger. So how would that work? Because something we wanted to do, but we're kind of trying to work out with capacity, is how to specialize a bit more. So people on TikTok see stuff that will appeal to them. People on Facebook see stuff that will appeal to them.
Michael?
Yeah, so I think there's two different things going on here. We probably need to be, say, Daisy and Linda representing the two parts to it. So there's two different things. One is campaigning and reaching new audiences, and so we could work with you on that. And yeah, these audiences, in particular, the Open Social Web has a there is an audience there which is really almost compared to those. So those are about reaching mass audiences. So you go onto Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn to reach a wider market. Probably your audience on particularly on what's called the Fediverse, the Open Social Web, is it more a natural audience for you? So you're reaching a kind of a closer community for you. However, that might be a community from which you could bring on more activists. So I think it's a slightly different group. They're probably already much more likely to support XR, I would say. So it's a slightly different than reaching out to new people, but they may be closer to you. And then the completely different idea, which what Linda was talking about, is a different thing, which is not about reaching out at all, is it? It's about making a safe space where people within XR can come to. So that we could do both of those, but I wouldn't say you're not necessarily coming. So we are not TikTok. You know what I mean? We're not billions of people. So you're not coming to the Open Social Web to reach billions. You're probably coming to reach an audience or a network of people who are closer to you and to get deeper engagement with those. So I'd say it's more about deeper engagement than big numbers, to be honest.
Thank you. Daisy, did that answer your question? Okay. Michael, you did have your finger up before that. Is that on a different
That was
point?
about that, I think. I think I was
Oh,
the
okay. Okay, so I'd like to contribute at this point. First of all, thank you. What an amazing project, enterprise, way forward. And I am thinking about it from two aspects. One is I know that GDPR and security in XR would want to know about data protection. If it's held on your servers, we tend to in XR, wherever possible, use open source software and hold it on our own servers. Just in terms of using your servers, what data protection do you have in place? Because obviously there are people within XR who are very vulnerable, either because they are putting themselves forward for arrest or because they live in a particular country that is pretty draconian in terms of what they're allowed to say and do. So how do you manage your data protection? Michael?
Yeah, so we are a few bits of that. We're open source, so we are all open source software, and we handle our own. If you're coming onto channel.org, you'll be within our area of data protection. But if you chose to quite quickly want your own server, then so we can very quickly move you to the space where you're talking about with your own server on open source. And indeed, that could be anywhere in the world. So if you thought that was best off in France or Germany, then we could put it there. So I think that you need to think like that. So that's probably so we could look at what protection we can give you right now. That will probably be the end goal. Will be to work out the safest space for open source software with us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And then my second question is, well, not really a question, but just to make you aware of the fact that our new strategy for 2025-26 has an element of community bases of power. I've put a couple of links into chat. One is for the whole strategy, and the second link will take you to that section talking about communities, which might be something you might want to have a look at and see whether this sort of resonates in terms of our strategy and what we're focused on. But obviously do that in your own time. The strategy is pretty long. Okay, so in terms of next steps, Daisy, my suggestion would be that we share the presentation, the recording of the presentation and our questions with XR UK Media Messaging. And there's a few other teams that I'm thinking of that potentially would want to watch this in and certainly maybe the what will become the communities team or whatever they'll name themselves. And also with XR Global, because we're just the UK, and obviously XR Global will probably be interested in having a look at this and then maybe getting in contact with you. Just in terms of Mastodon, did somebody answer that question about whether we were on Mastodon? Did anybody answer that question?
Yeah, we have a Mastodon account, but we don't actually use it. But we just took the URL because we were worried that like maybe a troll would take it or something. So yeah.
And XR Global are on Mastodon as well. So yeah, I don't know of any other XR groups that are using Mastodon. Peter might know actually. You've had a look at Mastodon, haven't you, Peter?
No, but I don't know any more about it than Daisy said.
Okay. Any other questions or comments at this point? No? Great. Okay. So I think what will happen next is once we've shared this, we can then talk amongst ourselves in XR about what next steps would be. You may find that you'll get different groups within XR UK and XR Global contacting you separately. I'm assuming, obviously, we can just go to your website and contact you there. Yeah, that's the best way. Great, lovely. Okay, all right, I'll stop the recording now and then we can move to checkouts.